Hello, Mr. Trump, President Trump. How are you?
Hello, Glenn. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for for coming on and talking about this. You are some of the claims in this suit: the RICO conspiracy, injurious falsehood, conspiracy to commit injurious falsehood, malicious prosecution, computer fraud and abuse act, theft of trade secrets. The list goes on and on and on. This is really not. Is this about the 2016 election, or is this really about what they did to you this whole time?
Well, I think it's about everything. It covers a lot of territory. It was totally corrupt what they did. If this were done, and you know this perhaps better than anybody else in the universe, if this were done the opposite way, as you know, they spied on my campaign. When I made that statement, everyone thought, oh, my God, what a horrible thing to say. I said Obama spied on my campaign and the Democrats, and all hell broke loose, if you remember. In fact, I put it out, and I don't think I've ever seen a reaction, which usually means they're guilty. In other words, normally if they didn't do it, it wouldn't have that kind of, but they spied on my campaign. If this ever happened the opposite way, if I spied on Obama's campaign or on Hillary Clinton's campaign, it would have been treason. It would have been everything right up into the death penalty, and that may have been included too. But it would have been over. It would have been the biggest thing ever. But it didn't work that way. So we caught him, and we caught him cold, and we've been just building it up and watching. And frankly, we wish Bill Barr had the courage to do it or do it also. But we've decided to do it. Bill Barr was so afraid of being impeached, he didn't want to do anything. He got, at the end, he was petrified of being impeached, so he didn't want to do a damn thing. But, how do you not get impeached? Let's not do anything. And all of a sudden that talk started dying down. But we've been building this up for a long time. The Durham report, hopefully it's just the early moments of the Durham report came out. And that added to it. And a lot of things are happening, but they all knew it. Look, Obama knew about it too. It wasn't just crooked Hillary. But so we expect that names will be added to it as it goes along. But this is very important. But can you imagine if it were the opposite way and I spied on, let's say, Obama's campaign? And not only that, much of the stuff, when you think about it, took place beyond the campaign. It was when we were in the Oval Office.
I know.
They spied while we were in the Oval Office. So it wasn't just campaign, which in itself is really bad. But it took place when we were in the Oval Office.
So the problem here is nobody ever pays for anything. There are no consequences anymore in government if you're on the right side, and people are sick to death of it. But this is going now to I think his name is Donald Middlebrooks, and he was appointed by Bill Clinton.
Which is a conflict of interest, in my opinion. That's right. We have a judge who was appointed by Bill Clinton, who knows Hillary Clinton very well, and we're suing Hillary Clinton, and we're suing the Democrats, and we have a judge. This is the way it works for Republicans,
Right. And this is
So I think it's a total conflict of interest, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, this is the guy who threw out the lawsuit filed against Hillary over her using private email accounts and servers while she served as Secretary of State. And
nobody could believe that he threw that out.
Right.
Nobody could believe it.
So what are the odds, or what is the plan? How do you think you're going to? I can't believe I'm asking this question because justice should be justice. But how are you going to maneuver around a judge like this?
Well, I think, and I talked to the lawyers. They called up and they said we have good news and bad news. Everyone thinks this case is incredible. And I don't think I've ever received more positive remarks from people. They're so tired of nobody doing anything.
I know.
And we have them, and we've caught them. And then Barr didn't act because Barr was lazy and scared. And he was scared. Contempt. They wanted to hold him in contempt. You remember those days?
Yeah.
Didn't want any part of contempt, which means going to jail. And he didn't want any part of impeachment. They were going to impeach him numerous times. So he didn't do his job,
But if
frankly, and it's very sad that he didn't, because this case is incredible. No, we have a judge who was appointed by the Clintons and who threw out stuff like it was waste paper, and it's very unfair.
So, Mr. President, you have government officials like Orr, Comey, McCabe,
right?
Seemingly actively engaging in this. We're waiting for the Durham report. But you have Bruce Orr funneling the Steele dossier to the DOJ and the FBI. They knew that it was false. They need a harsher punishment than just a lawsuit. But do you have any confidence that the Justice Department now is anything other than a political organ?
Well, it would be wonderful. We'll have to see. And, this was accumulating for a long time. It's, one of those things we're going to have to see. We're hitting them very hard. More and more information is coming out. Even since we filed it, all of a sudden people are calling. People are so happy that a case is finally being filed against these people where they, the two lovers, they go out and they sue the government because they haven't been treated well. And yet they were using servers and everything else. The whole thing is crazy. So I said, I've got to do it. I'd rather not have to do this. I'd rather have government handle it. This should be handled by government, but it can be handled by us very strongly. And this is a very strong case. People that read this case said, wow, this is a strong case. And this case will build. Now, the problem we have, though, is if you have a judge that's going to throw out the case and you have to go through appeals, I think you have a great appeal section, but we'll see. But it's very unfair. So we'll probably ask for a recusal. Maybe a change of venue, but not a change as much as a recusal.
I think it is amazing. One of the defendants in the case is a former State Department official and spokesperson for Clinton, Philip Raines, and he tweeted yesterday, I think this is hysterical. He looks forward to deposing President Trump. I'm not too concerned. They're laughing at this, and I have to tell you, just as a spectator here, you are probably the most investigated man on planet Earth.
Yep.
Every single intelligence agency, at least in Five Eyes, and I'll bet you it's all around the world, every newspaper, every reporter, every journalist have dug through everything, and you're pretty clean. So what do they think they're going to get from you in a deposition?
Yeah, beyond pretty clean. I have a friend, a very successful guy, said, you're the cleanest man in history. I mean, how about this, where Paul Weiss, a big law firm that's a total Democrat Hillary Clinton firm, sends one of their partners, Robert Schumer heads it, or one of the big partners, Robert Schumer, that's Chuck Schumer's brother, sends one of their big partners into the Manhattan DA's office, take two of our people and three of our people, your tough, smart young guys, and go into the Manhattan DA's office. Never happened before because they have hundreds of lawyers, do a good job. They took their partner, top guy, an anti-Trump, a Trump hater, like you wouldn't believe. All of them made massive contribution, one of the biggest donors, that firm, to Hillary Clinton, put him in the DA's office to prosecute Trump. Let's get Trump. Now we can get him. And Vance, Cy Vance, whose father sold the Panama Canal, as you know, for $1. In the worst, perhaps the single worst business transaction ever made by our country. And Cy Vance, instead of using one of his hundreds and hundreds of lawyers, of course, he used 20% of, I heard close to 20% of the DA's office, hundreds of lawyers. 20% was used on this instead of the murders, the drug dealers, the crime, the street crime in New York, which is at a record level.
I know.
They were all focused on getting Trump. But how would you like it? And in all fairness, the new gentleman who came in, Alvin Bragg, who is a considered liberal, he looked at this thing, and I mean, I'm reading the papers, but what he said is such an honorable thing. He couldn't believe it. I heard he was very disturbed by the fact that they sent a team of Hillary Clinton Trump haters in to prosecute Trump.
Yeah.
From a firm that's 100%, that's totally against. It's one of the main Democrat firms. I think the main Democrat firm And I think they have tremendous legal liability. But he sent this sleazebag in to get Trump. Think of this. They sent this guy in to get Donald Trump. So he acted as a prosecutor. He's a never Trumper who contributed to it. So it continues. But Alvin Bragg saw that. And he also saw, by the way, the banks weren't hurt. Trump's statement is very powerful. I have a great statement. My statement is so strong. And all of the other things. And think of that. They sent a Trump hater to act as the DA to bring down Donald Trump, and they still couldn't find anything.
I'll
got to live with this. Hey, Glenn, and I got to live this life. Okay?
I know.
A lot of fun. I did a great job as president. Right now, you wouldn't be in Ukraine. 100%. Russia would not be there. 100%. I spoke to Putin about it. I know that Putin's attitude toward Ukraine better than anybody but his closest girlfriend, okay? I know his attitude better. I know all about him in Ukraine. I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. And I told him why, and I'm not going to tell you right now, but I'll tell you at the right time. But he would have never, ever made the move. So we have a rigged election, and because of a rigged election, we have potentially millions of people dying because this thing could spiral into a nuclear war. I think it's the most dangerous time in the history of this world because of nuclear, because we've never had power like this. And I think that right now we have a president that's grossly incompetent, that's being laughed at over there, that has no relationship. He just sits there. Everyone's talking, screaming, and, the other leaders, they're all at the top of their game, and he's just watching them talk. The whole thing is horrible. This should have never happened. Ukraine should have never happened.
I find myself in the weirdest position at night praying hard for the health of this president because I think Kamala Harris would be even worse than this president.
When she laughed at the immigrants, and
my gosh,
they call them immigration. It's immigration. And you see people coming in on stretchers with their arms cut off, with their face smashed, and horrible. And she's laughing about it. I said, that's just, it's not the right person.
Kim Jong-un also tested a new ballistic missile.
Yeah, he's having fun.
What are we looking at a split world? They're now talking about, the dollar going away and getting a new digital currency. I mean, this is insanity. And I don't think people understand what this administration has done with these sanctions that will crush the dollar. I don't think people understand how that's going to affect their lives.
That's true. Well, I know sanctions better than anybody because I sanctioned the hell out of Iran, and they were ready to make a deal until the election. Well, we would have had a deal within 1 week after the election. They were ready to make a deal, and I had the sanctions. But people don't understand that when you do sanctions, it hurts us as much and sometimes more than it does the country you're sanctioning. And what it does is forces these big countries like Russia or others, and that doesn't mean you don't do them, but you have to be very careful because it forces them to use other instruments, not the dollar. They go different ways. They sell their oil for gold, or they sell their oil. And all of a sudden you're saying, wow, half the world is now off the dollar. It used to be, the currency when I left, it was very powerful. As an example, we used very strong sanctions on Iran, the strongest ever used up until that point. But that deal would have been solved, and we would have been right back on the dollar, and they would have been fine, and everybody would have been happy. That was all set to happen.
Do you think? I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you think, Mr. President, that if this continues to spiral out of control, with Joe Biden threatening China, which is just a joke, but do you think I don't see anything standing in their way if we're busy over in Europe with this president of China just taking Taiwan?
Well, except the only thing is that Putin's done very poorly, and she is looking at that, and he's saying, "I'll bet Putin wished he didn't do that one because that one is not working out too well." Let's see what happens. The problem is, the danger is, does Putin say, all right, now we're going to escalate into the next level of military? And you know what that is.
And do you think he would?
The world is a little, well, he doesn't want to lose, I can tell you that. It'll be very interesting to see because he doesn't want to. Look, I knew him very well. this would have never happened. Would have never happened. Now people say, what would you do now? And there are things you can do now, but we had all the cards before he did it. All the cards. And I thought he was negotiating when he moved the troops. I didn't, I really thought it was a great negotiating posture with troops, and he wanted to get certain things. And they should have been able to do something, but he wouldn't have done it whether he got it or not. He would never have done it with me there. But
he's a guy that you cannot have him lose face. How do you give him a win here? I mean, how would you solve this if you had to walk in right now? He's not going to walk away a loser. How do you give him a win? How do you end this?
Well, see, I don't think a win anymore is the NATO thing, that they're not going to go into NATO, because that's not, you could have had that before. They should have had that before, but it was never put, in all fairness, it was never put on the table.
Right.
There was nobody saying, let's do this. And certainly it should have been, because I guess they didn't believe, they didn't think he was really serious about doing it. Very few people did. Maybe nobody except him did. And, I think he made a tremendous mistake. And on a humanitarian basis, it's as bad as anyone's ever seen. I mean, it'll take 100 years to rebuild that country. And they're knocking down buildings and things that are magnificent, old. We have in this country 200-year-old buildings that we think they're great.
Yeah.
They have buildings that are thousands of years old. It's like they have things that are very old and very beautiful, and they're gone. They're wiped out. A lot of things are wiped out. A lot of, most importantly, the people, but artwork and so much is just, that country is devastated. It's going to take 100 years to rebuild that country.
Mr. President, thank you so much. Are you looking forward? Do you see more things coming from the Durham report that will help your case?
Well, I think so. I mean, it looks like he set a foundation. And if you look at what he's got, these are Hillary Clinton people, and he's got a very strong foundation. And you look at that, and now you look at the Times where they did. I thought that was another terrible story, really terrible. They knew all about Hunter Biden. They said they misread it. They knew all about Hunter Biden and criminality. It made a 17-point difference, but we won it anyway. We got 75 million votes. We got more votes than any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got what I got the last time, we got 12 million more votes. I was told if we got what we got the last time we went. So, I think that a lot of things are going to be happening over the coming year. You are very lucky to be doing what you're doing, because your show is going to get very interesting.
So is the world, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, because much of it is sadly, I have to say.
Yeah. Mr. President, thank you so much for talking to us. I really appreciate it. This is something that every American, I don't care who you voted for, how you feel about any of the people that are involved here, every American should care what happened. And the power that has been gathered by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, and how corrupt we have become. We won't have fair elections and won't have freedom until somebody pays a price for what has happened. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn. And we have a very corrupt media. Remember that.
I know.
Very corrupt.
Yeah. Next time you're on, I'll ask where the media is in the lawsuit. Thank you so much. God bless.
If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you'll be sure to see similar videos from Blaze TV, with the added bonus of signaling YouTube that your voice and opinion still matters. And if you're looking for more great conservative content, check out one of the 2 videos suggested here.